Welcome to episode 47 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast, The Immunity Syndrome.
In this week's episode, the Enterprise is diverted from a well-needed rest to investigate the disappearance and ultimately the loss of the USS Intrepid, a ship manned entirely by Vulcans. Encountering an unexplained phenomenon, Spock is selected to take a shuttlecraft in single-handed, knowing that it is not likely to be a survivable assignment. As Kirk and Mccoy try to imagine a solution, can they save the galaxy and their friend, or will they need to choose between the two?
The boundary layer between what and what?
Between where we were and where we are.
Are you trying to be funny, Mr. Spock?
It would never occur to me, Captain.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Are you trying to be funny?
It did occur to me, to be honest. I was trying, but
It does happen once a week.
normally by accident.
Yes, I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, alright. Not bad.
A bit warm.
Clammy.
The snowy weather's finished and we're into the summer.
I'm sure everyone is fascinated to hear our weather chat again.
Every week.
They love it. It's a highlight.
It's what folk come back for. This was more of a sort of typical style of episode compared to what we've had the last few weeks.
Yeah, it felt very contained, however.
Yeah, no guest stars at all on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to a bit more detail on this a bit later, but I thought some of the characterizations are a little bit out.
Yeah.
There might be a reason for that. And McCoy's shirt was very shiny.
Was it? Didn't notice.
Incredibly shiny. You should look back at that.
Okay. Maybe get a new one.
Yeah, it's freshly shined. You enjoy it?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, that's good. Shall we get into a little bit of talk?
Let's crack on. We start with a captain's log, 4307.1.
Yes, they're approaching Starbase 6 for a much-needed period of R&R.
Up on the bridge, Kirk confirms to McCoy that the crew have been working fantastically, but are all knackered, including him.
Yeah, I took this to be the end of his log, so I thought he was still dictating. And he refers to a lovely planet whilst ogling a yeoman.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Well, he does it again later.
But more noticeably, yeah. In fact, I think it's at the end. I've taken a note of that. It's
Yeah.
unacceptable, really.
So he does it right at the start and he does it again.
Okay. He is interrupted by Uhura with a distorted communication from the starbase, and all she can make out is the word Intrepid and a sector coordinate.
This is intriguing for Spock because the Intrepid is a ship, as I mentioned in the introduction, that is crewed entirely by Vulcans.
Now, as she's talking, Spock jerks his head up and then holds it as if in pain. And when Kirk approaches, he tells him what?
That the Intrepid just died along with all 400 Vulcans on board.
Significant.
That's a lot of people.
And it'd be very personal to Spock, obviously.
You would think so. Kirk's obviously counting up how many missions it takes him to lose 400.
Yeah. Oh, no,
That's
one go. If only
6 months worth of
it would save me so much paperwork if I could just
write it
explosion.
off. Yeah.
McCoy wants to take Spock to Sickbay.
Yeah, they're not taking his report as fact, obviously, at this point, but they want to find out if he's okay.
Yes, that's the thing. It's why would you not? Spock doesn't give you really any reason to doubt him.
Yeah, but there's no reason to believe that Vulcans can psychically experience the death of other Vulcans from a distance. That's not a known thing.
Okay, fair enough. So Kirk orders him to go. And after he and McCoy have left, Uhura gets the starbase on audio with disappointing instructions.
Yeah, it turns out that Starbase 6 is manned by that guy we mentioned the other week off the Mission Impossible tapes.
Yes.
And he orders the Enterprise to divert immediately to Sector 39J.
Ruining their holiday.
Yeah, well, Kirk says, no, hang on a minute. We're on a break.
Yeah, he tries to explain that they're all exhausted, but is told that it is a rescue mission as they have lost all contact with Gamma 7A. And that was the system that was being investigated by the Intrepid.
Yes, and they've now lost contact with them as well.
So Kirk accepts the order, and then Chekhov chips in with more bad news.
Yes, apparently the solar system's also dead.
Can you kill a solar system?
Well, I was going to say, this comes up a lot in this episode. They keep talking about inanimate objects being dead, and it annoyed me.
Did it?
You get away with it once as sort of pattern of speech that you might use playfully, but it's too serious a circumstance for them to be referred. Spock does it. He talks about a ship being dead.
Yeah, I mean, these people are scientists.
Yeah.
They should talk in the appropriate language.
It sounds like a thing maybe the writer does, and they thought it was a clever or funny, or maybe they just thought it was a normal way to write, but someone should have picked up on this.
Although, in fairness, you could argue, because Kirk makes the point next, that there were billions of inhabitants in that system. So
Yeah, well, the life forms are dead, not the solar system.
yeah, I mean, that's true.
Anyhow.
But we shouldn't gloss over billions.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of people.
An awful lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, Kirk examines the data himself using Spock's station and looks up in a similar way to Spock's earlier anguish.
We then have the credits, and after that we head down to Sickbay, where McCoy agrees that Spock appears okay and that the pain has passed quite quickly, but has a question about the condition of the Intrepid.
Spock, how can you be so sure the Intrepid was destroyed? I sensed it die, but I thought you had to be in physical contact with the subject before.
Doctor, even I, a half Vulcan, could hear the death scream of 400 Vulcan minds crying out over the distance between us.
Not even a Vulcan could feel a starship die.
Call it a deep understanding of the way things happen to Vulcans. But I know that not a person, not even the computers on board the Intrepid, knew what was killing them, or would have understood it had they known.
But 400 Vulcans.
I've noticed that about your people, Doctor. You find it easier to understand the death of one than the death of a million. You speak about the objective hardness of the Vulcan heart, yet how little room there seems to be in yours.
Suffer the death of thy neighbor, eh, Spock? You wouldn't wish that on us, would you?
It might have rendered your history a bit less bloody.
Is it just me, or was that conversation a bit disjointed?
I don't know what Spock's talking about.
McCoy's made a reasonable inquiry, and then Spock overreacts and then changes the subject, and McCoy treats his responses like they're normal, rational responses to what he's just said.
Yeah, he's just reading the script.
It doesn't make sense. Why would Spock not just say to McCoy, yeah, I did feel it and it's normal that I felt that, rather than say, oh, humans, you humans.
That can even raise about how they are happy enough with billions dying or something. I don't know.
I think it's almost underwritten in this episode, but I think they're trying to play on this idea that everyone's exhausted, they're all at their sort of end of their tether and they're struggling to function.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to how McCoy turns most of the crew into junkies later in the episode.
We will do. Up on the bridge, Spock returns to hear Kirk tell him that he may be right. They have lost contact with the Intrepid and can't communicate with the entire solar system.
Indeed. Uhura is struggling also to make contact with Starfleet, and Kyle reports that the shields have raised themselves.
Was that Kyle or Chekhov?
It's Kyle.
Sure?
Yes.
Okay. Spock then notes energy turbulence ahead from a reading he's never seen before.
Yes, we start to get a bit of a theme beginning here as Spock is unable to give Kirk any useful information.
Yeah, and Kirk doesn't like this at all, does he?
No, he asks for magnification on screen, and Uhura wonders what it is they're looking for. Nothing to do with her, I would suggest.
No, you just go on your job. Don't ask questions. We'll get in.
There's people qualified to talk about this, Uhura.
Are we there yet? Be quiet. However, they do find what they're looking for. What is it? What do we see on the screen?
A big black blob. Spock says it's probably that thing.
Yeah, a large black hole floating in front of them.
I don't think it's a black hole.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. Let's not get technical.
Okay. Kirk asks for suggestions as to its nature, but immediately shoots down Chekhov's suggestion with the help of Spock.
What's his suggestion?
Dust.
Yeah, it's not dust, is it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, he still doesn't have any data. But what he does know is that it was on the same course as the Intrepid and Gamma 7A.
Yeah, if you follow a standard path, that's where it would be.
So they slow to warp 1 and launch a telemetry. What's a telemetry probe? Just a listening?
A probe that's set to take readings and transmit them back.
Yeah, this is connected to the computer's library.
Well, where else would it be connected to?
Exactly.
So let's have it connected to engineering.
Let's have it connected to Sulu.
Yeah, what's the point? We'll send it to Chapel. She can figure it out and send it on to us. Anyhow, the probe is launched and suddenly there's a high-pitched squeal which deafens everybody on the bridge, which Uhura report has come from the probe, which has subsequently died.
Yeah. Chekhov and Uhura are in quite a bad way.
And they're not doing so well, so Kirk asks for speculation and gets a report from Spock that there's still no data from which to speculate, and Uhura tries to get up at this point and stumbles.
Things get worse when Mccoy communicates through to tell him that half the people on board have just fainted.
Yes, Kirk explains what's happened to Uhura and asks if she should head to sickbay, but he says he needs to deal with this emergency first, and we see crew queuing out the sickbay door, wanting shots from Chapel.
Yeah. On the bridge, Kirk surveys his crew and sees that they all still seem to be feeling the effects before telling Kel to hold their position. He then gets angry at Spock.
Yes, he asks for more analysis, and Spock says he's got insufficient data, which Kirk says is the third time he's been told this, and it's not an acceptable response.
No, he says a science officer should always have sufficient data. That's not how it works. If there isn't data, you can't invent it. It's very opposite of...
So again, I think this is a theme. I think this is again them at the end of their
He's
functioning
he's
ability.
getting irritable, yeah.
So Kirk suggests... we should say before that McCoy told Kirk he was giving everybody stimulants, which
Okay.
we'll come back to. Kirk suggests that they flip the problem around and try and eliminate things that it's not.
Yeah, I quite liked his response. He shrugs at this when he's told by Kirk that he needs to have data. He's like, well, I don't. I mean...
Yeah, I know I should, but yeah, don't.
Yeah, what do they eliminate, or what does he say it's not?
Okay, so Spock says it's neither liquid, solid or gas, but it is opaque. It's not a nebula, and it's probably composed of some form of energy.
Yeah, because the deflectors responded to it. He does, however, believe it's very possible that it caused the destruction of the solar system and the Intrepid, obviously.
Well, I like your use of language better than Spock's. He says it killed the solar system and the Intrepid, yet again making that... Oh, right, carry on.
Okay.
Kirk asks Uhura to relay a message to Starfleet saying they're going to probe this area of darkness
Whoa, yeah, I'm sure.
for additional data.
Yeah, before he himself stumbles on the way to his chair. They then approach the mass slowly as Uhura confirms she's done as requested.
Chekhov says they're about a minute away from penetrating the zone.
I think we should mention a red alert has been called at this point.
This is when red alert's called. The shields are up and the phasers are ready.
Now, earlier on when...
Yeah, the shields raised themselves.
Yeah, so why is he now asking them to be raised?
Well, just confirmation, I guess. It's standard red alert procedure.
Okay.
Uhura says... the sound returns and Uhura says it's not coming over communications.
And when it stops, there's a bigger thing to worry about.
Yeah, the stars are gone.
Yeah.
Spock has no explanation, once again.
What's the song? Is it Manic Street Preachers who stole the... I don't know.
Sun from my heart.
Ah, right, not the Stars from the Sky.
No. I could be wrong, I don't know songs very well. Kirk calls down to sickbay and is told that things are not improving.
No, they've gotten worse.
Yeah, but despite this, he asks for McCoy to come up and help people on the bridge. He wants to make sure nobody is unable to perform their duties,
Well,
so he's going to get them all shot up with stimulants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think treating those on the bridge first as a priority is a good decision.
Makes sense.
You don't want people who are just lying about playing chess. They shouldn't be getting the immunisation, the vaccine.
I think all hands are on deck, but yeah, Scotty is then contacted down in engineering, and Kirk wants answers about this brief power outage.
Yeah, he tells them that they've lost 5% of energy reserves and the deflectors are all weakened, but he cannot explain how it happened.
He says, don't ask me why, and Kirk says, well, that's what I need you to tell me. That's your job.
Yeah, it's unreasonable.
By Scotty or by Kirk?
By Kirk.
You think?
Yeah, you can't be expected to know. This isn't a phenomenon that happens all the time, that people in all different positions should be expected to know how it's... The nature of what they're doing. They're going to the galaxy and exploring things that have never been discovered before, so...
That's true. At this point, McCoy and a nurse arrive on the bridge with some PEDs for everybody.
Yep, and tells Kirk that 2/3 of them are affected. But, like Spock and Scotty, he also has no answers.
And he's a bit snippy about it as well.
Yeah. Just then, they see a red shirt fall to the floor, and Kirk is adamant that they need to come up with something, as the ship is in a state of creeping paralysis. I thought that was a good name for a metal band.
Creeping paralysis?
Yeah, at least an album, or maybe a song.
Yeah, that's quite good. He wants them to start solving problems quicker than they're creating new ones, and asks Spock for analysis of the high-pitched sound that they heard earlier.
But he can't give him any more information. We heard that at the top of the podcast.
No, he did give him information.
Did he?
Yeah, he says it was caused by penetrating a boundary layer. And then we hear the bit from the top of the podcast when he says it's the boundary is between where they were and where they are now. And Kirk is largely unamused by this.
Yeah, I think Spock's getting annoyed at these constant questions when he's been told, listen, if I have any more information, I'll let you know. You don't need to keep asking me and put me in a position to keep saying, I don't know.
I'm not incompetent.
Yeah.
So trust me that the situation is as I'm telling you.
When I have something, you will be the first to know.
Spock does hypothesize that they've entered a zone of energy that's incompatible with life as they know it, and as they get closer to the centre, it strengthens and they weaken. So McCoy suggests running away.
He does, yeah. Run away, run away.
Brave Sir Robin.
Kirk, however, ignores this and puts out a ship-wide attempt at a rallying call, reminding them how good they are and what their mission is.
Yeah, and they didn't sign up to stay alive or run away.
No, I'm not sure how motivating that would be to McCoy. He just blatantly ignores him, and the very next second he
starts talking to the crew.
Yeah. Down in Sickbay, a short time later, McCoy communicates up to Kirk with more bad news.
Yeah, he says everyone's dying.
Yeah, according to the life monitor systems.
But this doesn't really come up again.
No.
There's captain's log. It's stardate 4308.8 now.
They have been in the zone of darkness for 10 minutes and have stopped engines as they look for a defence against this energy drain.
Zone of darkness sounds like one of those phrases those weird pickup artists would come up with for when they're...
You think so, yeah?
Yeah.
She's in the zone of... You mean...
She's put me in the zone of darkness.
Alright, I thought you meant like... Give her the hypno and she'll be in the zone of darkness.
It could be that as well. Kirk is on his way down to engineering.
Yeah, he enters just as the Enterprise is jolted and Scotty is thrown to the floor. There is some confusion as he claims that they went into reverse, but Kirk points out it was a forward lurch before being told that power levels are now down 13% and decreasing.
Yeah. Takes a few minutes, but after they speak to Spock, it turns out they're being pulled to the centre of this dark zone, and Spock suggests using forward thrust to see if that would give them reverse motion, given that the reverse thrust lurched them forwards. Yeah,
I don't think Scotty is particularly sure about this. How
he's not, but before we hear from him, we go to Sickbay briefly, where Chapel notes that the patients have worsened, so McCoy calls for more stimulants, which, I mean, this is getting to Lance Armstrong levels. At this point, I think he's going to replace their blood with that of healthier officers.
Yeah, he himself admits he doesn't know how long he can keep doing this, how long they'll last.
Yeah, he's just keeping on pumping in the steroids until they sit up again.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Yeah, so back down in engineering, Scotty is not convinced about implementing Spock's forward thrust suggestion, claiming that it goes against the rules of logic.
Yes, he's calling Spock illogical. But Kirk suggests giving it a try, and if it fails, he'll mock Spock for the short period between now and their immediate death.
I quite like that. So, they do as Spock suggested, and it sort of works.
Kind of. It's not enough to stop them moving, but it is slowing them down.
In Sickbay, things are a little more positive.
Well, yes, the Chapel notes that the stimulant is keeping the patients alive, but McCoy says it's only just barely.
We now find ourselves in the briefing room. They gather to consider what they have learned and to look for a solution.
Yeah, McCoy says that all he knows for sure is the deeper they go into the zone, the weaker their life functions become. And then he has a wobble, but he's not blaming it on tiredness.
No?
He thinks he's overdosed on the stimulants. They're all going to need to go into rehab at the end of this mission. They're becoming addicted. Or they are. They've been forced to become addicted by the crew, the captain and the doctor. It doesn't seem like the crew have been given any choice. It's like, take these stimulants, keep working.
Well, if you don't, I mean, they're facing certain death.
It's like footballers in the 80s when they kept getting cortisone shots in their joints whenever they had muscle injuries.
Yeah, which reminds me of the old David Beckham joke, which was quite funny at the time.
Was it?
About him in the dressing room with the Real Madrid dressing room and hearing that Zidane was going to get a cortisone injection, and he pipes up and says, if he's getting a new car, I want one as well. Anyway.
Yes, Scotty reports that the power continues to drain and they're still functioning backwards, so they have to go forwards to reverse. Spock's analysis is that whatever is drawing power is doing so equally from mechanical and organic sources, so it's taking power from the ship and it's draining power from the life on the ship. He's convinced it's the same thing that destroyed both the solar system and the Intrepid. Yeah,
Kirk at this point I think asks if it is the zone itself, but Spock doesn't think that it is the source.
No, and I don't think Kirk thinks so either. He's distinguishing between this dark zone and something that they don't know yet that's at its centre.
Yeah, he thinks it might be a shield against whatever it is, but decides to get out of there and tell Scotty to channel all impulse and warp power to try and snap them out of the zone.
Yeah, Scotty suggests holding power back for the shields, but Spock says there's no point, because if it doesn't work, the shields will only postpone their inevitable deaths.
Yeah. So Kirk tells him to use all the power to escape and then dismisses them, although Spock remains behind to have his say.
Captain, the Intrepid would have done all these things too, and yet they were destroyed.
Well, they may not have done all of these things. You've just pointed out how illogical this situation is.
True. It is also true they never knew what was killing them. Their logic would not have permitted them to believe they were being killed.
Explain.
Vulcan has not been conquered within its collective memory. The memory goes back so far that no Vulcan can conceive of a conqueror. I knew the ship was lost because I sensed it.
What was it you sensed?
A touch of death.
And what do you think they felt?
Astonishment.
A Touch of Death. Now that would be the album name for the metal band.
Yeah, the other one's the name of the band,
Yeah.
Creeping Paralysis. Spock needs to be relieved of duty now. He's not making any sense. He's incoherent.
It's a lot of mumbo jumbo, isn't it? It's just...
There's no connection between logic not allowing you to realise you're dying and Vulcan having never been conquered. It doesn't make any sense. It's a non sequitur. He is raving and rambling, and somebody needs to realise it and take him off the ship.
Down in engineering, Scotty and his men set up the engines for full power before he communicates to Kirk to let him know that they're ready, and he hopes they have the ability to do it.
Kirk addresses the crew again, telling them they are being pulled into the zone of darkness by an unknown force and are going to try to use all their power to force the way out.
Yeah, he advises them to prepare for this. He then gives Scotty the go-ahead, and we have some fantastic physical acting and dodgy special effects as they demonstrate the pressure that is being applied. Now, he tells everyone to prepare themselves. There are still a couple of guys up in the engineering gantry
Yes,
on the catwalk.
there are.
That's, if you think there's going to be a shudder and a shake, you get yourself down to ground level.
Or at least hold on to something.
Oh, yeah, at least, but you would get down to the ground floor.
There's still folk queuing at Sickbay, I think.
Yeah. People are still playing chess and complaining that their piece has been moved.
Scotty, unfortunately, now has to report that it hasn't worked. The best that they are able to do is hold their position, and he reckons they've got 2 hours left of power, and after that they'll just be sucked into the zone.
Kirk again asks Spock if he has found out what they are trying to get away from.
Spock says no, but it's probably that multicoloured thing up on the screen.
Yeah.
That's the second time he's done that in this episode.
And with a dramatic score to accompany it, we see is it a new mass? This is a new mass, or is it changed?
This is the centre of the zone of darkness.
Right, okay.
They found the nucleus.
Right, it's approaching them, and it's a pink colour that looks a bit like a tropical fish.
If you mashed it up a wee bit.
Well,
Chekhov's told to prepare another probe.
as Spock confirms it is the source of the drain.
The probe is launched and it impacts this coloured blob and starts relaying data to Spock.
Yeah, what does he find out?
He finds out it's 11,000 miles long and its width varies from between 2,000 to 3,000 miles. The outer layers are studded with space debris and waste, and the interior consists of protoplasm, varying from firm gelatinous layers to a semi-fluid central mass, and it is alive.
They magnify in, and we see what looks like the hub, as Spock comments that is what is drawing them in, just like it did with the Intrepid.
And once again refers to the ship's death.
Yeah. Down in the sickbay, Mccoy takes a look at the creature and states that it's an amoeba.
Well, I think, no, he's showing them an actual amoeba. Having studied this, I think some time must have passed.
Okay.
He's saying this is what that thing is like.
Yeah, a very simple form of life, and Spock speculates that it lives on energy, such as theirs, and it's acting like a virus in the galaxy.
They're just throwing out random terms at this point.
Yeah, definitely it lives on energy.
Virus.
Energy eater.
Spock hypothesizes that it's no longer hungry, and that's why they've not, based on nothing. But yes, that's why a ship full of Vulcans couldn't solve this, but we have a chance.
Yeah. So Kirk wants to know about the zone of darkness around it. But by getting closer, their energy is going to get drained faster. That's the dilemma they find themselves in. That's a conundrum.
McCoy's been thinking about this and he has a proposal.
What's that?
He suggests they send out one man, ideally himself, in a shuttlecraft.
Yeah. However, Kirk says that he's not risking anyone and that an unmanned probe would be equally effective.
Spock, however, sides with Mccoy, and McCoy says one man can go in, pinpoint the weak areas, but Kirk says he cannot do that. He can't order a man knowing that it is a suicide mission. He's literally just told the entire ship that they weren't ordered to survive and has previously ordered folk to their deaths without any concern.
Yeah, and he's been responsible for the deaths of certainly dozens.
He's certainly been indifferent to the deaths.
Yeah, all of a sudden now he's like, we're all going to die, no, I can't. Health and safety.
Yeah, health and safety gone mad is what it is.
Yeah, McCoy, I think he puts himself forward.
Yeah, he says there's no need for Kirk to order anybody to their death. He will volunteer, and he's already done plenty of preparations. There's lots of tests he wants to do on this creature.
However, Spock responds by saying that he should be disqualified, as he obviously has a martyr complex.
Yeah, well, Spock is frayed at the edges here, as we know. He thinks this disqualifies McCoy, and McCoy counters that this is the greatest living laboratory he's ever encountered, and he does not want to miss the opportunity. I
had an issue with this. McCoy is always, for being fair, more pragmatic, more conservative in terms of risk-taking.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he wants to jump in here because he might get a chance of studying something. It doesn't sit right with me. This isn't his typical attitude or character. Again,
with the end of his tether, frayed, he's high on stimulants, he's got...
Well, yeah, I suppose the stimulants, you never mind the end of his tether, yeah, he's full of drugs.
That's it. Well, they all are.
Doped up to the eyeballs.
Everyone on this ship, this is literally a ship full of people on roids.
Yeah, they've all got a touch of the Doctor Strangelove about them.
Okay. Or the Apocalypse Now guys.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Spock argues that the Intrepid crew were here first and died anyway. That doesn't make any sense. Don't know what Spock's talking about once again. And he says he's more capable than McCoy and should be the one to go. But Kirk says he's going to do it. Nobody needs to volunteer. He's the captain. He's the best pilot. And Spock says, no, you're not even a scientist.
Spock and McCoy continue to plead their case, but Kirk silences them and tells them he will decide. We then have a personal log from him, 4309.2.
Yeah, he talks over what the situation is and the fact that these two both want to go in this specially equipped shuttlecraft, find a way to destroy it, and free the ship. And McCoy's got this medical, biological knowledge, and Spock is better suited physically and emotionally. I'm not sure about that on this occasion. But they're both right. They're both capable. And which of his friends must he condemn to death?
In his quarters, he summons them both before Scotty communicates through with bad news.
Power's down to 50%. That's quite good. Was it 13% earlier? Or was it down by 13%?
By 13%, yeah. It's down to 50 and decreasing, and they have about 75 minutes left.
Of thrust.
Oh, matron.
Spock, that's the one that you pick up on. Spock and McCoy arrive at Kirk's quarters, and Kirk orders Scotty to prepare the shuttle for launch.
There is, however, a twist.
Yes, McCoy is going to explain to Scotty what special equipment to put in, and Kirk apologises to Spock. So McCoy assumes this means he's going to be allowed to go and carry out these experiments.
But that's not the case.
It's not. Kirk stops him, saying that the apology to Spock was because he's the one being sent to his death.
Yeah, it was an odd way of doing it. Kirk's like, okay, I've made my decision, and it will be you, McCoy, who steps aside and lets Spock go
to his death.
Out in the corridor, they leave together, with an ungracious Spock acting like a bit of an arse to McCoy.
Do not suffer so, Doctor. This is not the first time superior capability has proven more valuable than professional credentials.
Nothing has been proven yet, Spock. The DNA code analyzer will give you the fundamental structure of the thing. You'll need readings on 3 light wavelengths from the enzyme recorder.
I am familiar with the equipment, Doctor. We're wasting time. The shuttlecraft is ready.
You're determined not to let me share in this, aren't you?
This is not a competition, Doctor. Whether you understand it or not, grant me my own kind of dignity.
Vulcan dignity. How can I grant you what I don't understand?
Then employ one of your own superstitions. Wish me luck.
They're about one step away from Spock murdering McCoy on his way to the shuttlecraft and them not discovering it till he's away.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, from what we understand of the relationship, Spock doesn't feel like this, and there is a mutual respect. However, with him facing quite possible and probable death, it's not the time for subtleties and joking. He acted really quite poorly towards him there, I thought.
It was inappropriate, and I think, again, we can probably point to the combination of extreme tiredness and being pumped full of illegal drugs.
Yeah, well, let's give him that. So as he watches Spock enter the shuttlecraft, McCoy does indeed wish his friend good luck with a sadness in his voice.
Yeah, without Spock being able to hear it either.
Yeah, pointless.
Up on the bridge, we hear Scotty confirm, in fact, I think Scotty's on the bridge now. He confirms that the shuttle is ready to launch, and Kirk authorises its departure, ordering Uhura to channel the automatic telemetry into the computers directly. Again, where else was the telemetry going to go? It's going to come in on a tape or a piece of paper or something? On comms, Spock reports an enormous and worsening power drain.
Yeah, I worried Scotty tells Kirk that he won't have enough power to return if he diverts the power to the shields.
Because Spock's saying he's diverting all his secondary power and will only be able to transmit for as long as he has enough power to do so. And
Spock, he hears this conversation and accepts the situation, and it reminds him that apparently they discussed it earlier. So he's effectively in a suicide. He's happy to give his life up.
It's almost like he wants to make it a suicide mission, though. He's determined that he can't survive this.
Yeah.
So Kirk says to him, he asks him when he estimates penetration.
Ooh.
He says after the third drink.
18 seconds. I don't know about penetration, but 18 seconds is normally the end of penetration. Anyway, this is went right downhill, hasn't it?
My notes says Spock is tossed around.
And they're jerked around
and the Enterprise crew, which has braced for impact, feels only a mild jolt.
Yeah.
This is really weird. Spock confirms he's completely undamaged, but he's used almost all his power. He's down to 3% before he could stabilise the shields. And
he then has another dig at McCoy.
Yeah, he says, you'd have been dead. How? He's fine.
Yeah, he didn't. There was no skill involved there. It was just luck.
He gets shaken around a bit.
Yeah.
There's no indication that he's beaten up or bruised or... Anyway.
Yeah, he's now on course to the nucleus, but Chekhov notes that he has reduced life support systems down to the minimum.
Yes, Spock says his shields will probably last another 47 minutes.
Yeah, thereabouts. Around 47 minutes.
However, he's able to provide additional data.
What's that?
He's able to identify the chromosome structure and confirms the creature's built up enough energy to reproduce.
Oh, that's not good.
Kirk is a bit stunned, I think, at the thought of there being multiple of this creature.
Yeah, him and McCoy, who realise that there may be two of them shortly, and things get worse as they start to lose communications with Spock.
Yes, but Uhura, having reported this loss of contact, they feel a jolt, and Kirk takes it as a message from Spock that he's not dead.
Yeah, we could take it that way, I suppose.
He's just dreaming, isn't he?
Uhura then picks up telemetry readings, and Chekhov is ordered to analyse them. And I think we return to the bridge a little bit later. Post-analysis.
Okay. Kirk reflects that Spock knew what would happen when he set these coordinates and the organism must be destroyed.
And we hear McCoy reveal that there are over 40 of these chromosomes in the nucleus that are ready to reproduce, and that 2 could very quickly become 4 and then 8.
Yeah.
Putting the whole galaxy in jeopardy.
Indeed. Scotty reports an increased pull from the organism, and the shield's now reaching a critical level. There's no more than an hour left, so Kirk orders all secondary systems be put to standby.
Uhura then receives a very faint message from Spock, and he tells them that he's losing life support, but manages to let them know that the energy of the organism is centred in the outer membrane. He tries to tell them that a charge of something will destroy it, but the static at this point is too bad, and they miss out on the critical word. Yeah, and rather than ask him to repeat this, they let him tell Kirk to tell McCoy that he should have wished him luck. Which again, what's going on? Third time. It really is.
It's not in character for Spock, and we can only assume that these drugs affect Vulcans very differently.
Captain's log 4309.4. Because of Spock's help, they now know that they can destroy it, but don't exactly know how, so it's not really that helpful.
Yeah, they know where to do the thing, that they don't know what it is. Yeah. In Kirk's quarters, McCoy pays a visit.
Yeah, he is clearly feeling the strain of his friend being in such peril. He discusses this with Kirk, and during this, they arrive at a potential solution.
Is it me, Jim? Am I so sentimental that I just have to keep believing that he's still alive out there in that mass of protoplasm?
He knew the odds when he went out there, just as you did when you volunteered to go. What is that thing out there, Bones? It's not intelligent. Not yet.
It's a disease, like a virus invading the body of our galaxy.
Yes, it is, isn't it? How many cells does a human body have?
Millions.
This thing, this cell, this virus, it's 11,000 miles long, and it's one cell. When it grows into millions, we'll be the virus invading its body.
Oh, isn't that a thought? Here we are, antibodies of our own galaxy, attacking an invading germ. Be ironic indeed if that were our sole destiny, wouldn't it?
Antibodies. Bridge.
Scott here, sir.
Scotty, how much power do we have left?
We're down to 43%, sir. We're slipping a bit against the pull that beastie's putting on us. We can't last more than 45 minutes at this rate of decline. Less if I have to apply more thrust.
What would happen if you diverted all remaining power to the shields, except for impulse power? Keep that in reserve.
Cut the engine thrust? We'd be sucked into that thing like being caught in the wind tunnel, sir.
Exactly. Prepare to divert power on my signal.
So their plan is to do an inner space with Martin Short. You mentioned that movie the other week there in your trivia.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. McCoy, having pumped Kirk full of stimulants up to this point, suddenly grows a conscience and suggests he takes a break right at the critical moment.
Yes.
Kirk says, just, no, we've not got time. Maybe nobody's got any time.
Up on the bridge, Kirk puts out a ship-wide communication and warns everyone again to prepare for collision when they enter the organism. They do indeed impact, and we have the best ever bridge impact acting from a blue shirt in the background. We see him cartwheel across.
That's not an easy manoeuvre to pull off.
It's not. It was very impressive. I enjoyed it.
Chekhov reports that they're through and Kirk calls him Captain Obvious.
We can see on the screen that they're now inside this organism.
Yes, Scotty says they're down to 26% of power and only a little impulse is available.
Yeah, he's not sure if they've got enough to get back out.
And he's certain they don't have enough for phasers, so what are they going to do here?
But
Okay.
Kirk says they're committed.
Yes. McCoy adds that they couldn't use the phasers anyway unless they wanted to cook themselves, and Kirk feels that the organism would probably just eat up the energy from the phaser.
Scotty apologises for his tone but demands to know what they intend to do now. I'm not really... In the first season or two, I thought Scotty was always a very much a can-do type of guy.
And now he questions everything.
Recently, yeah, he's becoming a bit
Whiny.
negative and ninny.
Since he got away with murder, he thinks things have changed.
Yeah.
Kirk recalls that Spock was trying to tell them something and theorises along the lines of the reverse engines that perhaps antimatter could harm the creature, and Scotty immediately agrees that that's a great idea and why didn't you think of it before?
So Chekhov is told to prepare a probe and Scotty goes to get a magnetic bottle for the charge.
Kyle confirms that they are 7 minutes from the nucleus. Kirk indicates that they are going to go right up to this nucleus to implant the probe and then back off, and McCoy asks why they don't send the probe from here.
Yeah, they can't, because of this, the plasma or whatever it is, they can't be sure that it would hit the target. They need to be very precise.
Yes, and Kirk demands more stimulants, and McCoy, finally growing a conscience, says he can't keep taking them. And Kirk says, I just need to go for another 7 minutes.
Just one more.
One more shot. Cut me.
We have a Spock log, a personal Spock log on the shuttlecraft.
Yeah, he says, I saw the Enterprise go by the window. If you get this tape, I bequeath my highest commendation to them all. They seem great.
And on the bridge, Kirk returns the sentiments.
Yes, he does a log himself saying that McCoy, Scotty, Chekhov, Kyle, Uhura, basically the ones that you can see right now,
His pals, the good ones,
are due commendations, and also Spock, who's died.
Yeah. He then orders Kyle to program the fuse for a 7-minute delay and orders all non-essential power to be conserved, and then tells Scotty to make it work.
Yes. they are ready, and he orders that the probe is launched and the retreat begun.
Yeah, after a shudder, Chekhov confirms that it is lodged in the nucleus before Kyle is told to back them out the way they came in a straight line.
Chekhov estimates it'll take over 6 minutes to get out, and then reports a metallic structure just outside the ship.
And they assume or realise it must be Spock.
Well, Mccoy does, yes. So Kirk hails him and orders Scotty to tractor beam the shuttle. Scotty says, well, we don't have all that much power. Let's not be saving Spock right now.
This is incredible. Yeah. He literally says it. He goes, well, do you know what? We might not. If we use it on him.
Yeah, because
Are you sure?
Kirk overrules and orders 2 beams, at which point Spock typically pipes in saying, no, don't save me.
Yeah,
How can I be a martyr if you save me?
I've got a sprained ankle. Go on without me.
Yes. Yes, like in the Galileo 7.
Yeah. I'll only slow you down.
McCoy says, shut up, we're going to rescue you. And Spock again mocks him, calling him, thank you, Captain McCoy. As in, what are you speaking on this channel for?
Oh. But you do see Kirk, I think he reacts positively. He finds McCoy's attitude very impressive.
Yeah, he wants to save his friend.
But they now have a problem.
What's the problem?
The power levels are dead.
Yes, they're still about a minute from detonation, but haven't quite reached the edge of the membrane.
But at this, there's a large crash as they break through this membrane. And when it ends, they look through the viewing screen and what do they see?
Well, it turns out that the detonation happened, they were thrown clear, and the organism has been destroyed.
Scotty also has good news.
Yes, the shuttle somehow is still attached to the tractor beam, and Spock comes on comms requesting permission to dock.
Yes, with some fascinating data.
McCoy at this point calls him out because he knows he's botched at least one of the tests, and Kirk steps in to encourage them to leave this for later.
With the shuttlecraft docked, Chekhov is told to head to Starbase 6 for their much-needed R&R that they are due. And we mentioned this earlier, as he signs off the paperwork, Kirk gives a very lecherous look at a young human.
Yeah, basically it's a bookend from the start of the episode. So
yes.
He's saying even the same words, talking about a lovely planet. And when he says the word lovely, he starts drooling.
He does. And now this is almost as if he's rewarding himself. Well, that was a tight scrap. I done my best here. So as a thank you, I'll be having you later on, Hen.
Down on the planet, yep.
Yep. Whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I wonder whether she'll get any input into that.
Oh, she'll get input, all right.
That's not appropriate.
Okay.
And that's it, off to another adventure.
Not quite.
Not off to another adventure.
No, not quite. It gets a little bit worse.
Okay.
As he makes this sort of comment in this sneering, grinning lech at her, she walks off and all the lads laugh as she walks away. It's all, all
the boys together.
Yeah. You're up for a good night tonight, aren't you, Captain?
You'll be getting it.
Yeah.
So he's going to give it to you.
Yeah. High five.
Yeah, so my first note, it's good to see Kirk still manages to find the time to perv on junior officers.
Yeah, abuses power.
Absolutely, an abusive power, complete abusive power.
Mm-hmm.
She might feel like she has to consent, otherwise she'll maybe lose her job or be put on worse duties.
Well, it's not just that, but she's trapped in a spacecraft she can't get another job or hide from them.
Talking about things that are not justifiable, do you think it was justifiable to wipe out that life form?
Yeah.
They certainly tried to justify it to themselves. Rationalisation.
So that's not a life form that had destroyed a solar system with billions of people?
Accidentally. It was just existing.
Yeah, it's not like a lion that you say, well, I didn't know it was going to kill those 2 people, we should just look after it. You can't contain it and say, right, don't do that again.
Well, yeah, you can't reason with it.
No, yeah, it was entirely right to kill this life form. It slaughtered 1 billion people. Or billions.
Do you think the combination of exhaustion and ridiculous amounts of stimulant were enough to explain the characterization issues?
Not really. I mean, that's all we've got. But I'm not sure how being pumped full of energy would have made you make those decisions and have that sort of attitude. No.
I mean, there's no way around it. They're all going to have to go to rehab and be detoxed after this mission.
Well, they're going to, they're going for R&R anyway. They're down there probably.
You'd think it would be managed by medical professionals.
No, not at all. Cold turkey. Let's get down there.
You can't come to cold turkey though.
Well, it won't be cold turkey. They'll drink. They'll use alcohol to wean themselves off the stimulants.
Jeez, well, that doesn't sound like any way to operate a starship.
Maybe they're not operating there at that point.
When they come back,
yeah, they'll be fine. They'll clean themselves out. Maybe smoke a few things just to chill. Yeah, they'll be all right. They'll be cool.
Yeah, back to next
week.
It was
the 60s. It was all sex and drugs and stuff like that, wasn't it?
Whether they liked it or not.
Whether they liked it or not.
I thought, not that I'm in any kind of script writing expert. The way I would
No,
have I would have liked to seen this dealt with is McCoy and Kirk to realise earlier that this is analogous to a medical condition and come up with some kind of antiviral treatment that neutralised it.
Yeah, as opposed to doing inner space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all the stimulants and stuff.
Okay. Well, you should write to the writer.
I'll write to the writer and tell him.
Who is the
Oh,
writer?
no, hang on, he's dead.
Ah, okay. Well, tell me about them.
Okay, so original air date for this was the 17th of January 1968, and it was the last of the 14 Star Trek episodes directed by Joseph Pevney.
The last?
Yes.
Ah,
This is his 14th. So if you want to hear more about him, go back to Arena.
Big JP.
Robert Samaroff was the writer. This was his only episode of the original series, but he did go on to pen 2 Next Generation episodes as well.
Okay.
He also wrote for shows like Bonanza and The Equalizer, and he died in 2007 when he was 72.
I love me a bit of The Equalizer. I found out the other day there is a new TV show
Yes.
with a female lead.
Yes, apparently.
Yeah,
I've not seen it.
I've got the first episode somehow. I've not watched it, but I did look at IMDb and the reviews are rotten.
Oh dear.
But I'll give it a
It's probably because of all these sort of edgelord guys who, there's a woman in this, let's give it 1 star.
I think it's a black woman as well, so it's yeah.
Half a star.
Yeah, PC gone mad. Yeah.
It doesn't represent me.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it a watch. 'Cause hopefully it'll be good because I do like The Equalizer. I did like the first movie with Denzel.
Yes, the second one wasn't so
The second
good.
one was a bit crap, yeah, but the first one was good.
Yeah. No guest stars in this episode, so let's talk about a Columbo connection in the main cast. Walter Koenig.
Let's go for it.
He appeared in 36 episodes and 7 movies as Chekhov, along with quite a lot of the fan-made productions that came out subsequently. Obviously, either he loved doing it or
Was
he
skint.
really needed the work, yeah. He also had a recurring role in Babylon 5, and he appeared in shows like Diagnosis Murder and Futurama.
Babylon 5, is that within the universe?
No, it's a separate thing.
Alright, so he wasn't Chekhov in it?
No.
Okay.
In 1976, he showed up opposite William Shatner in the Columbo episode Fade into Murder, where he played a police officer.
Very small part, but I think it was quite a big thing because of the start. I think that was the first time they were on screen together since then, so it was...
Yeah, people probably tune in for that one.
I'm sure.
The studio probably promoted it as well.
No doubt.
He's also had success as a writer, including for TV shows like the Star Trek animated series, which he wrote for but didn't perform in, and Land of the Lost, as well as a novel and some comic book stories. He's now 84 years old. The captain of the Intrepid was named Satak, but that was cut out of the episode. I really liked the remastered shot of the Enterprise in darkness with its lights on. I thought that was really good. It reminded me of the Titanic.
Yeah.
When you see probably the movie, but also artists' impressions of that when it's just the ship's lights in the darkness. And in terms of international titles, so the Germans have gone with Das Loch in Weltraum, the hole in space. In Italy, it was La Galaxia in Pericolo, the galaxy in peril. And our friends in Japan opted for Tansaibo Butai Tono Gekistotsu. I looked up the pronunciation of that, I probably still butchered it. But anyway, that is Crash with a one-celled life form.
Yeah, okay.
Next week, the 19th episode of Season 2, A Private Little War, which features the return of a formidable rival.
Oh, sounds good.
In the meantime, you can get hold of us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Trek Podcast. And you can go to astartrekpodcast.com when there's a post up about every episode. And if you prefer to listen on YouTube, for whatever reason, we are available there as well.
Until then,
Cheerio.
bye-bye.